to talk about the midpoint formula. And the midpoint formula says if you're given 2 points, then what we do is we add the x values of the points and we divide by 2. We add the y values of the points and we divide by 2. And when we add these 2 values and divide by 2, what we're doing is we're taking the average. The problem with the midpoint formula is that the state test will give you a formula sheet, but this is not one of the formulas that's given to you. So we have to figure out some other ways, but I do want to show you how to use the formula. And when we get over here, we can say that this is x1 and y1. The -5 is x1, the 7 is y1. x2 for 11 and y2 for 3. And again, what we do with the midpoint formula is that we add the 2 x values together. -5 plus 11, we divide by 2. And we do the same thing for the y's. We add the y values together. 7 plus 3, divide by 2. And then we do the math for it. -5 plus 11 is 6, divided by 2. 7 plus 3 is 10, divided by 2. And then we finish the math. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. And that's going to be the point of the midpoint. 3, 5 is the midpoint between -5, 7 and 11, 3. And certainly the formula always works, but again, it's not going to be provided for you. So the geometry teachers have come up with some alternative ways, but the algebraic way does work. You just have to know the formula. So we label the points. By the way, it doesn't matter if you label x1, y1, x2, y2. You could make -8 x2 and 12 y2. You just have to be consistent here. But ultimately what the midpoint formula says is that you add the 2 x values, divide by 2, and we add the 2 y values, and we divide by 2. And -8 plus 5 is -3, divide by 2. 12 plus 4 is 16, divided by 2. And if you don't like the fraction, -3 divided by 2 is -1.5. And 16 divided by 2 is 8. So we want to figure out how to use Desmos here. And in case we forget the formula, don't want to memorize the formula, don't care what the formula is, what we can do is we can take this, the 2 values here. It's the same problems that we were just previously doing with the formula. And let's look at the picture here. And I think I'll do this one on the grid paper, and then I'll do the next one on Desmos. But what's going to happen is we're going to graph these 2 points here. -5, 7. So here's one of the points. -5, 7. And then 11, 3. And one of the problems is that most of the grids are 10 by 10. And so we're going to go off the grid a little bit, but it's going to be 11, 3. So there's our 2 points that we're given. And what we want to do is we want to figure out the midpoint in between these 2. And what you might want to do is you might want to connect them. And I don't know if that helps or not. And again, as you see, I drew without a ruler. So it's going to have to be a little bit of a trial and error here. But what's going to happen is we're going to start with the lowest point, and we're going to count up. So we're going to start here with our lowest point, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So I did 1, 2, 3, 4. So that gets us up here. And then we're going to go across. We're not doing the Pythagorean theorem, even though it looks like I just did that for counting purposes. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I'm sorry, the board is a little bit disoriented. So what we did, once again, is we just went up 4, and we went left 16. But in order to find the midpoint, what we need to do, and what we did with the formula, is we cut everything in half. So to find the midpoint, instead of going up 4, we can go up 2. Instead of going left 16, we can go left 8. So you start from the lower point here. So we're going to go up 2, 1, 2, and then we're going to go left 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then what we look at here is what is that ordered pair here. I'm going to put an M by that. And what we see, if we count over, it's 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if we look at the next one here, I will do this on Desmos, but if it works better for you to use the grid here, you saw how it works. It's going to be the same way with Desmos. I actually have the points already written in here, so I'll turn them on, maybe. -8, 12, and 5, 4. By the way, if you don't know it, the Desmos on the testing screen looks like this. Just need to get our other point here if I can. Not doing so well. Oh, it's gonna go here. There we go. There are 2 points. Put that back up there so we can see it. There are 2 points. So once again, what we're going to do is we're going to count. And the nice thing with Desmos is if you accidentally graph it wrong on your paper, hopefully you're not accidentally going to graph it wrong on the computer. Hopefully you're going to type in the correct point. But what we're going to do, we can, once again, we can connect our line here between the 2 points, which I missed. I'll try one more time. And it is not my straightest line, as you can see. But we're going to start with the bottom point, and we're going to count. We're going to go up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we went up 8. And then we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So then we're going to go left 13. But what we're looking for here is we're looking for the midpoint. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut those values in half. So instead of going up 8, now we're going to go up 4. Instead of going left 13, we're going to go left half of 13, which is 6.5, or if you prefer, 6.5. Start from the lower point. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to go left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5. And then what we need to know is, what is that order pair? So as you're looking at Desmos, I'm going to erase this stuff here to get it out of the way. But as we're looking at decimals here, we want to know what is this black point right here. Look down below. Look at the origin, because when we go here to count, we're going to go, well, that point is going to be 1.5 spaces left, 1.5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's negative 1.5, and then we have 8. You can do that on the grid. You can do that with decimals. So if we flip our paper over, the nice thing is on the two problems on the back is that the picture's already drawn for us. So rather than knowing the formula of the midpoint, the nice thing is, can we count? And I'm pretty sure that you didn't make it to high school without knowing how to count. So when we look at this here, once again, we're just we could draw in our picture if we want to, but we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, because we're going to start with the lower point. So we went up 4, and then we went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We went left 8. So when we're finding this midpoint, we're cutting those values in half. So for the midpoint, now we're going to go up 2. We're going to go left 4. So now we're going to count from the lower point up 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Gives us this value right there. Then identify what that ordered pair is. Well, that ordered pair, we went left 1, and we went down 1. Our midpoint is negative 1, negative 1. Letter B. Same idea here. We can draw in the triangle if we prefer. You don't necessarily have to. Start with the lower value. So here's a picture. We're going to go up 1, 2, 3. Up 3. And then this time we're going to go right, finally. We can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right, 9. Well, to find our midpoint, what we're going to do is we're going to cut those in half. So now we're going to go up 1.5, half of 3. We're going to go right 4.5, half of 9. Do the best you can here. I struggle a little bit with the half values on our screen here. But we're going to go up from the lower point, 1.5, and then we're going to count right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And help me out here. It's here. There we go. Up 1.5. 1, 2, 3, 4.5. And then we need to go back and we need to look at, well, what is the value of that green point? Well, we went left 0.5. And we went down 1, 2, 3.5. Down 3.5. By the way, think about the formula. Even though you don't need to use it, we added the two x's, we divided by 2. We added the two y values, divided by 2. When you divide by 2, you're always working with halves, and halves as a decimal is 0.5. We're always going to be dealing with 0.5s if we're dealing with partial values on our graph. You're not going to get 0.75. You're not going to get 0.35 or something like that. We're always going to be dealing with 0.5. Now, there's one final type of problem here, which says segment AB has a midpoint of negative 6.4 and an endpoint of negative 10.9. We want to find the coordinates of endpoint B. So once again, let's draw the picture, and the nice thing on this one here is that these points fit on our graph. But we need to be a little bit more careful, because this time we're given the midpoint and we need to find the other value that gives us the actual midpoint when we finish. So when we graph this, negative 6, 4. And I'm going to put an M there for midpoint. Segment AB has a midpoint at negative 6.4. One of our endpoints is negative 10.9. So we're going to come over here to negative 10.9. And here's our endpoint. But as we want to figure out what's the other endpoint, it's all about counting. So in this case, what we want to do, it's kind of like a slope process. We start here at this point here, the negative 10.9, and then we're going to count. We're going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to go to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. That got us. We went down. I already forgot what I said. Down 5, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And to the right 4. Goes from the end point to the midpoint. So follow that pattern again. Down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's our other endpoint in green. And that ordered pair, when we go back and look at the whole graph here, is negative 2, negative 1. So it's nice to be able to do it by hand, but let's finish by looking at how it works on Desmos. And there's a nice little something I learned with Desmos for this last problem here, and it's on all of them. If we come over here and I erase this, and we can turn these points off. Should be the last points if I remember correctly. So 1.52, turning that one on, 0.6 are the problems that we're given, because 1.52 in this particular problem says it has a midpoint. And I don't know if you've used this. I have not used this, but I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click label. And then I'm going to type in what it is. Midpoint. And it pops right up. I thought that was kind of cool. And then down here on this one, I'm going to label 0.6 the endpoint. So we've got that one now. And what we want to do is we want to figure out, well, what's the other endpoint? And we've got it labeled. And the nice thing is we can scroll it around. But this picture is the picture that you, in general, tend to get on the test, with the increments 0, 5, 10. But what we did, if we count from this green point, we are going down 1, 2, 3, 4. We went down 4, and then we went right 1.5. Remember, everything's based on halves here. So we can go down 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then down over a half, and then 1. So let me try it one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a half, and then 1. So here's our point. So that's our other endpoint. That's red there. I'm just a slight bit off with the disorientation. But there's our other point there, and then we have to identify, well, what is that ordered pair? Well, that ordered pair is 1, 2, 3, negative 2.